Hey guys, this is Alisha Costanzo and welcome back to my channel. I'm at work and I'm going to give you guys my TBR wrap up. For August, I had 8 roles, 8 prompts, and I ended up reading 14 books this month. I completed most of my prompts. I did not complete number 6, which was DNF Revive, because I was still waiting for the book. I just got it, so it's rolled over and I'm going to read it this month because the audiobook I had access to is no longer there. And so now I'm reading it on my phone that I'm looking into right now. Anyways, let's give you some stats real quick. So again, I read 14 books. 2 of them were YA, 11 of them were adult, and 1 was a middle grade, which is not normal for me, which is alright. My genres this month, I had 7 fantasy, 2 thriller, 1 romance, 1 nonfiction, 2 sci-fi, and 1 erotica. So I read 4,131 pages, which seems like a lot. Not as much as last month, I don't think. And I spent 108 hours, 18 minutes and 1 second reading, which equates to 4 days, 12 hours, 18 minutes, and 1 second reading. Listening to stuff that doesn't include the physical reading that I did with my ebooks. So, you know what I noticed? I haven't been listing how many physical ebooks this month. Well, let's go through that real quick. Sorry, Alicia. So 12 of them were audio and 2 of them were ebooks. So of the 2 ebooks, I don't count that in my time, just so that we're clear. So I'm going to try to tell you guys what my prompts were this time as I go through them. But the first book I read was We Free the Stars by Hafsa Fazil, and I gave this 5 stars. This was a fantasy. This is book 2 in a duology with We Hunt the Flames, and totally love this book. My word for it is horse, and that's because there's a scene with the 2 main characters, protagonists, on a horse, and it was steamy and cute at the same time. There was a lot of tension between the protagonists in a way it didn't seem exactly necessary. Like some of the things that she did to him when he was being so cute to her, so romantic. I don't know. It bothered me a little bit, but they're not my characters. So it was still believable, and I still loved the way it turned out and all the tension and stuff with me, but the end part where she's kind of mean to him a bit seemed a little forced. The horse scene, however, not so forced. Alright, since I have so many of these, I'm going to try to go through them quickly. Definitely recommend. I read this for one of my challenges, so I will talk about it more in that video. Book number 2 is The Ballad of Black Tom, and this is by Victor Lavelle, and this was starts with an L for my game, and I gave this a 3.5. My word for this is magic. So this was another fantasy. It was a novella, and I actually liked it quite a bit. It just wasn't as end-of-worldy as I thought it was going to be, if that makes sense. Like, it was predicting the end of the world, and a whole lot of the tension, I don't know, it didn't ramp up until the end for me. However, I really, really liked the way the old woman was described. She was a magical woman by the cops who were there, which was another really nice thread in this. And just the monstrous qualities of this woman that magic was trying to hide, but he could feel. That was really, really cool. There's a lot of different magics in this, and it just was a little bit slow at times. For something as short as it was, it felt really, really slow at times. That's the reason it was a 3.5. So, book number 3 is Never Let Me Go, and that is by Kazuo Ishiguro. So sorry for butchering your name. I should really look these things up first, but I didn't. And this was for another challenge that I've already posted, which was my last word challenge. So I had to read this because the last word of a previous book was go. And I gave this a 4, and my word for this is donation, because there are so many euphemisms in this book for what these children are, which is the only sci-fi part of it, which is the part that is revealed at the end, and so I don't want to ruin it for anybody who hasn't read it. But all of the oddities of these children and the way they're treated has to do with this process of them donating, and you don't figure out what that is until almost the end of the book. And it's probably, if I hadn't seen the movie first, I would have been enthralled in the book. I was enthralled in the movie, so I hate Ruth. Just putting it out there. As I said in the video, I hate Ruth. If you don't want the spoiler, by the way, I do spoil it in my other challenge video, so go read it or watch the movie first so you can actually enjoy the full thing. Okay, taking way too long. Book number 4 is American Spy, and this is by Lauren Wilkinson, and this was for my 4th prompt, which was randomize my library. A few times, so I gave this a 4, just to be clear. A few times I thought about DNFing the book because it was rather slow. Like, I thought it was going to be a mystery thriller, like an actual thriller, and it does get to that, but it gets to that, so it opens with that, which is really interesting, and then we have all the slow backstory where she's telling her kids about her life and what it came to, and then there's action again, and then there's cliffhanger, which is my word for this, is cliffhanger, because we don't know what happens, because it's the end of the diary, and it's both brilliant and fucking infuriating because there's no second book. I like cliffhangers if there's more books. I like cliffhangers in short stories. If I spend almost 11 hours in a book, I damn well want to know what if the good guy won. I want to know. At least write me a blog. Let me know. Okay. But it was really interesting and a lot of cultural things that taught me a whole bunch. It wasn't as like heavy romantic or heavy action as I thought it was going to be. There was a lot of introspection about her and her life and her sister and how smart she was, and then she wasn't all that smart, and then she got smart again. Make sense? Book number 5 is The Art of War by Sun Tzu, and the copy that I loaned had a really long introduction, which was longer than the actual book itself, and Cliff Notes, which was 3 times as long as the book itself. So I only really read the introduction in the book itself. I didn't stay very long for the Cliff Notes because I can garner what I want to garner from a book because I'm smart enough to do that. Thank you very much. I have my own references. So that sounded really cocky. It was just not the reason I got out of academia. Well, one of the reasons why I got out of academia. Anyways, I gave this a 4. Which is really hard to rate something like this, but maybe it was just my busyness for all of that extra bullshit I didn't feel like I needed. Anyways, my word for this is sparse, because it was literally like an hour-long book of his actual stuff, and the interesting thing about the translation, because in the introduction, which I did enjoy, it talked about how they tried to keep to the same rhythm as the original writer, which was in these short sentences, short chapters. This is this, and this is this, and this is this, and that's what you need to know. Very straightforward, and I really, really enjoyed it. It's been tinkering in the back of my head for a while on how it connects with one of my main characters, which is why I wanted to read it to begin with. But I also read this for the Ketchup-a-thon, and that was my Worcestershire prompt, which was a classic, and I pulled that from my jar. So, right, so book number 6, we're in book number 6, is A Brief Submission by Red Phoenix, and I gave this a 4.5. This was for my 10 chapter challenge, in which I read the first chapter of 10 books, and then chose one. I ended up choosing 2. I didn't read the other one, I just read this one, and I read it really fast. It was really interesting, and I also did put that video up as well. So that was a challenge video, which means I get like 2 books. I get to buy 2 new books because of those things. So my word for this was growth, and this was one of the ebooks that I read because obviously it's one of my free books that I pulled from my jar. I was surprised not only by how sexy it was, because it is about a girl going to a submission school, and she had they had to grow as subs, being trained to be a submissive in the school, and the growth of her as a character, the other characters around her, the growth of the knowledge that she gains, and the adaptation of these individuals was actually rather interesting and well done. So it also got rid of a lot of stereotypes and common perceptions of something that 50 Shades of Grey might have created. But really, it was a really good book, and I'm going to keep going with the series. So yeah. So that book number 7 is Arusha and the Song of Death. This is by Roshani Chakshi. I gave this a 4.5, and this was the second in the series with Arusha, and the first one I liked a lot. The second one I liked even more because we had more characters, we had more depth of interpersonal relationships and things to develop, and I found that really interesting. Development of the world, which was also really cool. My word for this was crab, because there's this crab monster, and he gets really upset in the beginning of the book about being asked if he can sing, or if he has a Jamaican accent, or mention Moana, and of course, resembles the kind of Moana monster, and it made me want to listen to Moana so badly. I read this once again for a challenge video, which is not out yet, and that is my prompt redo challenge. I had to read a middle grade. So, did I fit that anywhere else? I didn't fit that anywhere else, but I did complete something else. I'm one book away from finishing that, just so that everybody knows where we are with my challenges that have seemed like they were really, really slow going, and now we're all finishing at once. So book number 8 is Exit Strategy by Martha Wells. I gave this a 5, and this is the 4th in the series of the Murderbot series, where we have this cyborg security guard dude going through and helping different people, guys as a human or as other things. And in this one, he gets back to his original crew who freed him to begin with, and I loved it. I mean, my word for this is trust, because it was a lot about trust, and can you trust humans? Can they trust each other? Can we trust corporations? Can we trust half machines? And I'm in love with the series, so if you haven't started reading it, they're short. Go read them. At least give it a try. Alright, so book number 9 is A Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas. I gave this a 4.75. It was close to perfect because I read this in ebook form. There were some things that really messed with me, some word repetition and stuff like that, but I read this in a day. My word for this is tension. This wasn't for anything. This was one of the books I got to buy because of my challenges, and the tension. So this is about a 19-year-old girl who gets kicked out of her apartment because of her boyfriend, who's a shit. And she's too afraid to break up with him because they're best friends. So they move in with his dad, who she just went and saw a movie with, randomly met in the movie theater, was attracted to him after boyfriend on her birthday did not come and pick her up because he got wasted and was in jail. And then he's like, well, are you dating so-and-so? Because that's my son. Let's go pick him up. And then she moves in with him, and then the boyfriend breaks up with her, and then those two, oh, the tension, good tension. Not how I would have written it, but I still enjoyed the fuck out of it, so much so that I went back the next day and was rereading some of the parts and marking them to be I'm going to reread this, and I'm going to give Penelope Douglas another book try. I already have it on hold for my library. We're on book 10, which was Crywolf by Patricia Briggs, and this was my 8th prompt for the month, and it was the double prompt of highest rated and start a series, and it was a good book. I gave it a 4.5, and my word for this was mates, because it was all about mates and about this Omega, it's the Alpha and Omega series, this Omega who was treated very poorly in her pack because the pack leader's girl was insane, and the only way to protect this girl was to like hand her around and beat her and torture her essentially. And this guy comes to save her. The executioner, the Rock's son, Charlie, comes to save her and brings her back to his town, and his wolf has mated her without his permission. And usually it's the other way around. The human wants him, and then the wolf, you have to convince the wolf to want her too. But the wolves are mated, and he's trying to give her a choice. And there's another character who lost his mate because of a psychotic child that he took in that was a witch. And we learn about the Rock's mate and how he lost his original mate and how the new one seemed out of necessity with his wolf, and they don't get along very well because he lost his love. So there's like a whole lot of mate things going on, and I really, really liked it. I'm looking forward to book 2. I have it on my holds. Book 2. And it goes along really well with the Mercy Thompson series. I wish I had started them both at the same time because there's overlap, and I don't remember what she was going through at the time to match it with what was going on, spatially and time-wise, timeline-wise in my head. So there's that. All right, so book 11 was When the Bow Breaks by Jonathan Kellerman, and I read this for my dad. Essentially, my dad loves Jonathan Kellerman, and I'm trying to read the books that he enjoys so we can talk about them. And it is in the line of things that I like. It's a thriller. It's about a child psychologist who has a pedophile kill himself in his office while he's treating the victims of this dude. And it's about the theory that this guy did not actually kill himself, and they're trying to find a pedophile ring, and they do. And the whole thing goes. And I gave it a 3.5. My word for this is pedo because it's about pedophiles. And I felt like I both enjoyed it a whole lot, and the tension, but there's a lot of like monologuing, a lot of internal thought work that wasn't interspersed with enough action. I mean, there was action, don't get me wrong, but there were times where I'm just like, oh my god, just get on with it already. I'm kind of sick of reading about pedophiles. It's just been very present in a lot of thrillers that I read, a lot of the first books of thrillers that I read. So I'm just like I got why, because this is the reason why the child psychologist retired, and it was a very personal thing for him to do. So it makes a connection with the detective that he becomes friends with. So I'm like, I get it. In the right now of what I've been reading with thrillers and stuff, there's been a lot of rape and a lot of pedophiles. So I'm just like, I'm ready for something else. So that might have just been me and my reaction to it. I did enjoy it enough to give it a second try, or give him a second try, the next in the series, because when I read the back blurb, which I don't usually do for a lot of books, it doesn't seem like it's going to be about pedophiles. So I will give it a go, and if I like that one, I will just keep going. If not, then I tried. Book 12 is Alpha and the Omega by Patricia Briggs. So this is the prequel to Crywolf that I was just talking about. And I gave this four stars. And my word for this is abuse, because this is essentially detailing it's detailing some of the abuse that the main character went through before she got saved by the executioner, alpha male, and it's essentially her calling them rock and prompting the whole first book, and him coming and saving her in the whole thing. So it talks a lot about abuse, it talks a lot about what's right and wrong. I found it interesting, but at the same time didn't find it necessary, because I had all of that information in the first book, but I didn't really feel like I needed to see it. I mean, I enjoyed it. I just don't feel like it was necessary. It sounds really terrible, but you write what you feel like is necessary for your world, and I'm sure readers will enjoy it. I did. Okay, book number 13, which is really funny. The Utterly Uninteresting Unadventures of Fred the Vampire Accountant. Say all of that in one breath. By Drew Hayes. I gave this a 4, and this is, of course, about Fred, the Vampire Accountant. It's 5 stories, and I read this for one of my challenges. It was, what one was it? It was a first line challenge. So I am almost done with that one as well. I have one more to go. But anyways, this one I gave a 4. My word is myth, because Fred became a vampire without really knowing, and it didn't change his demeanor whatsoever. He still likes to do his accounting. He's still very passive, and he does transform through this. But my favorite part of this book was the mythology and how they warped it a bit. Because, there's warlocks making drugs for creatures. There's a dragon who looks like a 7-year-old. There's a shape-shifting horse who's actually a pony. I mean, it's ridiculous, and I loved it. I loved that bit of it. There was a little bit of repetition, but otherwise, it was a really good book. I do feel like I would give the next one in the series a chance. So it was interesting, but definitely in my wheelhouse of geekiness. So my last book, book number 14, was 6 of Crows by Lee Bardugo, and this was the last one I had to do for my YouTube challenge. Yes! Sorry. And I gave this a 5, and my word for this was mishaps, because it felt like everything that was planned had a mishap. Even the communications and the romance between all of the characters that were there. There were so many miscommunications and mishaps, and just stuff went wrong, but they went right. And fucking cliffhanger at the end. Holy shit. Definitely a good suggestion from the Irish reader for that challenge that I did in my last. So I get to buy another book. I'm so excited. I want to go through some of the other ones I had on my challenges. So I did have to rank my favorite authors, which I did. I get to buy another new book. I did The Starts with L. I did my Randomize My Library. I did my second chance jar last month. I read The Wright Brother. I did review it in last month's wrap up. I tried The Cruel Love in my freebie jar by Nikki J. Summers, and I got a chapter or 2 into it before I was like, so I put it down. It didn't happen. I DNF'd it, not going back. But that's the reason why I do these things, is how will I know if I don't like it if I don't try it? Because I might like it. I did not finish my DNF revive, which is The Poet. I will be rolling that over. I finished my 10 chapter challenge, video posted. I read Brief's mission for it, and I did finish my double prompt, which was Crywolf, highest rated, and start a series. For the catch-up-a-thon, I only finished 2 things, because 6 of Crows was also my Mayo, so I got Worcestershire and Mayo. It was 5-star prediction, and I loved it, but I didn't get anything else done. It makes a good sauce though, Mayo and Worcestershire, if you've ever tried it. I'm just saying. Just saying. Anyway, I'm going to stop rambling now, and going to be excited for my Good Reading Month. Thank you for being here. I really, really appreciate it. And let me know what you're reading in the comments below. Alright, I'll see you guys next time. Bye!